This is Jim. Okay, we'll go ahead and turn it over to Karen now. Okay, this is Karen, and then Colleen will be there. Aaron, go ahead and turn off your camera. Perfect. Okay, is everybody ready? All right, fantastic. My name is Karen Philo House. This is my name sign, Karen. I am the member at large for Washington State Association for the Deaf. WSAD is the acronym. We're hosting this every month. Usually it's it's the fourth Wednesday of every month. I want to thank you for the Office of the Deaf and Hard of Hearing for providing support with our language, our deaf interpreters, our captioning, our voice interpreters. Thank you so much for providing ODHH, and thank you as well, Suzanne Manella. Hopefully I spelled your last name correctly. And while I'm the presenter, I would like to have all of your screens off and then hold your questions until the very end. If you have any questions, you can go ahead and click, I believe that's the React button on the bottom of your screen that says raise your hand. Clicking on that feature to raise your hand, or you can interject, but the best thing is to just go ahead and click the React button on the bottom, and then it'll pop up raising your hand. Karen Atwood is actually going to be monitoring the chat. When your name is called, then you can go ahead and turn your camera on, and then we will spotlight you for the group. If you're shy and you don't want to sign your questions, that's quite all right. Just go ahead and type it in the chat, and we will go ahead and sign a question for you to the group. We have two presenters tonight. Our first one is Jim House, and then we have Irvine Stewart. So first, Jim House will be up. He works with, well, actually, I'll let Jim explain this title because I can never remember it. I am so sorry, Jim. Ready to spotlight you there, Jim? Jim is saying hello. Hello, everyone. My name is Jim House. Just like it sounds, House, House. I'm also the board of WSAD, a member at large. And for my bread and butter, my employment, what I do for a living, work for the Washington State Independent Living Council. We're an agency that advocates for individuals with disabilities. Focusing, my work specifically is managing disability / AFN, which is access function needs, integration manager. What we do is we assess different types of emergencies, any needs that happen to arise, located, statewide in Washington and also across the states, gathering resource and dependent information which is best to serve deaf individuals, those who are in wheelchairs, blind, deafblind, any types of disabilities. We've gone through a lot with COVID, with fire emergencies, floods, you name it, all the natural disasters. I am here to introduce you to actually a new person who's come on board. Her name is Sue, and hopefully I can spell your name right. It's Pniewski. I hope I got that spelling right.
Perfect.
And she is also the FM program coordinator for Washington State Emergency Management Department. And this basically helps support different areas, counties, and facilitates information between the different counties throughout the state. And if necessary, we will connect with FEMA, the Federal Emergencies Resources. We both work in the specialized areas working with individuals with disabilities. So we often come together and we collaborate, working on various different topics. So I think it's important for the deaf community to be aware and know what's out there, what resources are out there, just in case something happens in DC, or different, rules change, role shifts, a lot of things happen. So Sue is here to be able to tell us a little bit more about herself and what we can do. And especially throughout the summer, if there's a fire emergency or if there's fires that spread out, if we have any floods, what happens in Washington State, and how do we navigate? How you guys can work with us? The number one thing is be prepared. I will turn it over to Sue now.
Thank you very much, Jim. And I'm going to show you.
And hold on just a second.
I'm sorry.
Here. Let's go. We need a spotlight, certain people. Hold on 1 second. Okay.
Okay, we're good?
We're good.
Great.
Go ahead.
So I can introduce myself to you a little bit. I can say my name is S-E. And
hey,
I have been around deaf coworkers and sign language interpreters during the time that I worked with FEMA. So I have learned a little bit of sign language. Not very much, but enough to at least try to be polite. So as Jim told you, my name is Sue Pniewski, and he spelled it correctly. And I'm the Access and Functional Needs Program Manager for the Washington Emergency Management Division. I've been in that position since November, so not quite 6 months yet. I'm pretty new, and I'm also very new to the state of Washington. And I can give you a little bit of information about my background. I began my work in disability working for an independent living center in New Jersey. I have actually worked for a couple of them there when I lived there. I provided all of the core services that independent living centers provide, including information and referral, individual and systems advocacy, independent living skills training. I feel like I lost one. Peer support, individual and systems advocacy. If I repeat a couple, I'm sorry. And transition, both transition from institutions such as a nursing home or a hospital to community living, and the transition of students with disabilities from school to adult life. And in fact, that last, the transition of students, is the area that I specialized in, and I developed more than one program to be able to support students through that transition, teaching them pre-employment skills, self-advocacy skills, and I did that for quite a few years. I lived in Toms River, New Jersey, which is at the Jersey Shore. And I was living there when Hurricane Sandy hit. And Toms River was ground zero for when Hurricane Sandy came on shore. I lived 10 miles inland, so I was very fortunate and my home was not affected. But obviously, my community was very severely affected. Um, After that happened, I looked around for ways to be able to support people with disabilities who were recovering from that hurricane. And I happened to learn about an organization called Portlight Strategies, and I went to work for them, providing durable replacement durable medical equipment for people who had lost equipment during the storm. And actually, it became different types of equipment, even sometimes like iPads and that sort of communication devices also. And I also became able to provide small grants to help people make their homes more accessible when they had to be raised to be up above um, the flood levels. Many people at that time had to raise their homes as much as like 30 or 40 or 50 feet up in the air. And that's a lot of stairs to be able to climb. So people who used to live in little cottages that were on the ground now had to find a way to be able to get it safely in and out of their homes that were way up in the air. So that was a great job, lots of fun, but over time the funding ran out. But I had been presenting on the work I was doing after Hurricane Sandy at Getting It Right conferences that Portlight Strategies was providing around the country. And through them, I met Marcy Roth, who was the original disability, the, the original director of the Office of Disability Inclusion and Coordination with FEMA. So she encouraged me to apply there, and she actually hired me. And that um, started the next
Hold on
8 years of,
one second, Sue. We're actually going to be switching interpreters, so give us 1 second. Thank you.
okay, okay, great. Um, oop,
Not yet. Okay, there we go. Thank you. Go ahead.
are we all switched? Great, thank you.
Go right ahead.
So that began the next 8 years of my career. I worked with FEMA as a disability integration advisor, an applicant services program specialist, and a voluntary agency liaison. Last year, my husband and I sold our home in New Jersey and drove all across the country and moved here to Washington to be closer to um, our son and grandchildren. We're not getting any younger, and we wanted to be near family. So after I moved last fall, I left FEMA, and then I applied for and was hired for the Access and Functional Needs program manager position, which is a wonderful opportunity for me. It enables me to use everything that I have learned over the past 20 some years to be able now to serve the people of the state of Washington. And the ways that I do that is, um, first of all, I do quite a number of different things, but one of the things that I do is I provide a lot of advice. I provide a I'm sorry, I'm tired. um, I provide a lot of advice on accessibility. I review the emergency management plans to make sure that those plans include inclusive plans that account for what people with disabilities and others with access and functional needs are going to need in the way of assistance during the response and recovery from disasters. I also provide a lot of advice lately on making sure that the actual documents themselves are accessible. I don't know if you know or not, but those emergency plans are actually online and you can read any of them. You can read all of them online, all of the ones in the state. And I believe the ones in your county are available online too. And those might be some things that you might want to start to take a look at and see what do they have planned for you as far as making sure that you get the communication that you're going to need when a disaster strikes. And I know that Jim has done quite a bit of work in that area over quite a long time, right, Jim? Because I,
Yes, that is right. Definitely. Yes. And I have been working with CIEP, that's inclusion for the emergency plans, and for the past 6 years, actually more than 6 years. And we have a lot of great support from the Emergency Management Division. And then also, I've received support from FEMA in the past. That has happened, and that experience has been great, where there was the disability integration specialist in all the different areas and regions. So we have 3 different levels of state in the state, myself. I was not an AFN, or I was an AFN a long time ago, and then roles have shifted and changed. And now in Washington State, we propose that they and the legislator passed to allocate funds to be able to hire someone like Sue, and it was Sue, to come and step into that role. Another person had left, and then that individual was deaf and was hired on and was strong advocate for services and understood the people, the deaf community, and other different disabilities, deaf plus, deaf blind, and learned about the community and the culture in order to improve the plans and make the emergency plans as best as they could be. And then what we saw in Washington, D.C. was a lot of those funds were cut. And FEMA the person in FEMA lost their job. So now it's just Sue and myself for now in this area, continuing on doing what we've been doing and trying to discuss and prioritize what's most important. And that we know FEMA has given us a lot of support in the past, but now it seems that that has been reduced. And we're not exactly sure what will happen next. In wire fires, like in Spokane, where we had 2 years ago, we were fortunate that we knew some people in the area that we could reach out to. And then when the wildfires hit, a deaf family actually lost their trailer home. And we were able to be there right away with interpreters and resources and equipment, with iPads and other people that were in wheelchairs or walkers that lost everything. We were able to also replace their equipment. There were about 20 people that had reached out to us, and we were able to provide them with the resources that they needed at the time. It was great. If we didn't have an interpreter, we were able to get another one instead to come in to replace them. And the most important, the key thing was preparedness itself. That really helped a lot, that we were as prepared as we were at the time. 3 or 4 years ago, there was a time where there was a huge heat wave in Washington State, which is very rare for us. And there was a sign, and Sandra Carr, who's from the Spokane area, let me know what she had heard about 2 or 3 deaf people that had passed away. And when they investigated it, it seemed that there could have been an issue, but where was the access to information at that time? So we had to work with ODHH, the Office of Deaf and Hard of Hearing, to do some testing to disseminate information, but an issue was not having ongoing funding for that project. And then that left us to be able to work on, in partnership with ODHH, to be able to partner with them in order to teach the case managers about the emergency system and what happens in the case of a wildfire. How do you bring people together? And if the need expands or contracts, how do you bring people in? And the more complicated a situation becomes, and the neighbors nearby, how can you include them? But if the resources run out, then the state has to provide the resources and additional support. We can ask the president for a declaration of disaster, and then FEMA then could be able to come in. But FEMA was always last. But you need somebody on the ground at ground zero all of the time. Then this past November, I think we had a cyclone kind of thing, a bomb cyclone, this huge, terrific windstorm that impacted a lot of people, where the people lost electricity and a lot of damage to homes up against the Cascade Mountains. And we asked FEMA to help support us, and at that time, and their response was no. And that's an example of some of the changes that we're seeing, which means that emergency preparation, we now know that we're not able to rely on the government as we have in the past, that we have to become more self-sufficient, and people need to be better prepared in their own homes to shelter in place, or if they have to leave, that they have a backpack or suitcase or something available that they can store all of their critical things for several days to be able to evacuate with those things with them. If there's a really huge disaster, like an earthquake, people need to plan ahead and to be able to communicate in order to establish interpreting systems. If the communication goes out and even texting goes out, we have to be able to learn to be self-sufficient and to help one another. So we have to think of different means to be able to do that. And that we have to see what's going to happen in the next couple of years. But I think it's critical at this juncture to start thinking about how to take care of oneself and what to do. Some things don't need to be expensive. You can start building your kit, if you will, your emergency plans, like whatever medicines you may need, even something to keep yourself busy, like playing cards or something. Everything that you need, you can piece by piece be able to start putting it together so that you're aware and ready. But I think what's most critical is for people to be aware, and that it's your responsibility to also assist and help other people with that may pertain to your specific situation or others. Okay, so I think we've got some time to open up the discussion if there's any questions. And we're going to take an interpreter switch. Hold on one moment while we take an interpreter switch.
Okay, now we have some time to discussion. Okay, we are ready. Go ahead.
Oh, I can see the interpreter. There he is. Okay. Just making sure everybody's where we can see everyone.
Okay, this is Carrie. I raised my hand because I would also like to add on that how Sue supports the deaf community. Just recently, she invited myself and Jim and Angela,
Thoreau from DBSC.
yes, from the deafblind director. Yeah, the three of us went to a training for the emergency management department. And that was basically on how to communicate, how to gesture if there's an emergency arises and the interpreter is not able to be there right away because it takes time. I mean, maybe the interpreter's house is, demolished. Maybe there's some areas they can't drive to the location, whatever it may be. So, how do you communicate with deaf blind? So, we actually taught them how to gesture as a way of communication, gesturing until the interpreter arrives. And then we can go ahead and let the interpreter take over. And Sue invited us, and we actually taught that training as a workshop. It was awesome. And that's one example on how she supports the deaf community and the deaf blind. And I know that we are running out of time, so we'll go ahead and hold these questions until we're done with Irvine, and then we will go back to our questions and answers, our Q&A. If Jim and Sue, if you don't mind staying on for a little bit longer, we're actually going to go to Irvine, and then we'll go back and do the Q&A for both of you guys, well, all three of you at the end. Is that okay?
That would be fine.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Sue and Jim. I appreciate it. Okay. Irvine, are you ready to come on? There we go. Where are you? Okay, there you are. So we have some questions here. Hold on, Irvine. I see we have a question for Jim. Sue, can you hold on just a second? We had a raised hand here. Oh, Sandra. Can you wait, Sandra? Jim and Sue? Sandra, can you wait a little bit? Oh, where you are. Oh, there you are, Sandra. Sandra's like, I'd like to add something to Sue's comment. But you said you want me to wait? Yes, if you don't mind. This is Karen. Thank you. Okay, now we're introducing Irvine. He's a wonderful background experience, wealth of knowledge to share with the group here. He has experience working with individuals who are physically or mentally not respected. And how do you heal from that? Irvine will explain more. The floor is yours. And he is also a dancer too. I would throw that out there. Go ahead. This is Irvine. Thank you so much for inviting me to present today. I want to let you know that I present for self-advocacy and self-validation, healing from sexual assault and domestic violence, SANDV. I'm sure many of you are aware what domestic violence is. I mean, you've seen it on TV, you've seen it on shows, you've seen different things happen in life between a man and a woman, between a woman to woman, man to man. So for the sake of clarification, we're going to explain, that we all can agree upon this. This domestic violence is when one individual tries to control the other person through
Well,
whatever means,
go with them.
threatening,
No, I'll come later. I'm
intimidation.
going to be here till 7.
Oh, Sue, this is the interpreter. So we can hear you talking in the background. Can you mute yourself, Sue?
Lori has muted Sue.
Oh, yeah, I apologize. Sorry, I thought I was.
This is Irvine. That's quite all right. That's quite all right. Not a problem. Technology. Ah. Okay, so yes. Yeah, I love the dog behind you. I must add that. Little one sleeping there behind you there, Karen. Okay, so anyways, back to what I was saying. Sorry. A little humor here. Before we move on, I do want to let the group know if you feel triggered for whatever reason, please do some self-care. Do some meditation, whatever works for you, because we're going to be talking about some painful stuff this evening, some tragic experiences. Back to domestic violence, the description. It's a pattern of behaviors that could happen where one individual tries to dominate over others, over another individual. Whether, it could be through economics, money, could be power, position, society, or through intimidation. Karen's saying, can you raise your hands a little bit, Irvine? It's hard to see you, the camera. This is Irvine. I'm going to go ahead and step back a little bit. Is that better? Yes, it's better. Thank you so much. This is Irvine again. Like I was saying, through power and controlling other individuals. So that gives you an idea what domestic violence is. Often individuals think it's married couples, but that's not always the case. It could be roommates as well. The other part we're going to talk about is SA, known as sexual assault. Just to clarify, there's several different ways to how you would describe sexual assault. One could be rape, forcing a person to do something that is not comfortable, putting your hands on another person without permission. So this type of thing does happen throughout the community. Black, white, race, doesn't matter. It does happen. And it happens to a deaf person. Yes, often deaf-blind too, deaf-blind population, deaf-blind community. Why this is so important is because there's not really a lot of resources out there to be able to help them that they're aware of. The resources for the general public and the population, yes. But for the deaf, it's very limited. We are fortunate here in Seattle that we do have ADWAS, ADWAS, Abused Deaf Women's Services, Advocate Services, and wow, they are phenomenal, amazing organization. And it's not every state has that, unfortunately. They're the experts and very much a model of how deaf people deal with domestic violence, sexual assault, and how to talk to the deaf population at large. So just to clarify, what is domestic violence and clarifying what is sexual assault. Anyone confused between the two? Okay. It's important to remember that consent is the key word, having consent. If there's no consent, that means the person may be drunk. They're not able to give consent. They don't have that mental capacity to have that consensual. So we face a lot of different issues, challenges, a lot of social judgment on others. And we come across lots of barriers to those people, individuals such as transgender, sex workers. There's a lot of different, I mean, I can go on into a lot of different detailed information, but we want to go ahead and focus on the aftercare, on how do we support people who are survivors of sexual assault. I mean, we often hear so much about these things happen, sexual assaults happen, domestic violence. You hear about from women who actually burn their husband's bed, light the mattress on fire, or they cut their penis off. I mean, the list goes on and on. Yes, things like that does happen. We're going to go ahead and focus, put our attention on self-care. If you want more understanding and be able to talk more about it, ADWAS, ADWAS, again, is the best place to go to. I'm sure they'll be able to, somebody's going to put contact information there in the chat if you are interested. So people who are survivors of sexual assault and domestic violence, the hardest thing to do is to accept the fact that it did happen. That is the hardest thing. Radical acceptance means approving. Radical acceptance means approving the situation. Not really approving the situation, understanding that it's real, understanding that this did happen. You're saying, oh, I'm in denial, this nothing happened, nothing happened. Quite often, that's actually the first step. People realize, okay, this did happen to me. And maybe for, an ally or a friend to say, realize, oh my goodness, this happened to you. And the parents like, oh, my daughter, my son, oh no, my kids, or my wife, my spouse. So having validation is very important. It's part of the healing process. First thing, or just saying, can you just scoot over just a little bit in the middle there, Irvine? Thank you. Irvine saying, yes, first thing important is stabilization. It's crucial to be stable. When sexual assault happens or domestic violence, your feeling of self-security is taken away. So your first step is to make sure and commit that you are safe. Make sure that everything is stable, whether it's your home, relationship, and so forth. Make sure that you're safe. The second step is no judgment. No judging. Be there to listen. Support the individual. Support them. Such as myself, I'm a survivor of a sexual assault, and people blaming me or having the blame put on me, I did it myself. I shouldn't have dressed so obvious. I shouldn't have drank too much. Putting the self-blame on you, thinking that it's your fault. Self-validation is saying that I didn't ask for this to happen. That's self-validation. Helping reduce feeling of loathing, hating myself. Self-validation means, okay, accepting that I wasn't responsible for the act of another individual that did this to me. No matter what the circumstance, the environment, the situation, accepting that's not my fault. The third belief The third belief is believing that this did indeed happen. If you find yourself judging others, getting mad, looking down, no. Step away from the situation. Because the person right now needs somebody there to support them. They need somebody to stand next to them and understand. Quite often, a person might not be ready. Possibly not ready to report the situation that happened. Maybe they're not ready to discuss. Maybe it's an important person in their life. Could be a teacher, counselor, parent. So they may not be ready. So we need to be able to respect them for that if they are not ready for that. And it looks like we are switching interpreters. One moment. Right, so I'm trying to find that good place to jump on in. And there we go.
We'll wait for the interpreter switch. Okay. All right, thank you. Go right ahead. Okay. I know that this meeting is deaf and deaf friendly, and it's primarily deaf individuals, but we do have interpreters here, so I have to be cognizant of that. The first thing that we need to realize if we're in doubt or if we're feeling something about this individual, to be able to support that person in what it is that they need and to believe them and to advocate for their concerns. Self-validation means doing something to take care of themselves, that they're able to do so, and to find the support in friends, allies, or a group. And that some things may be triggering for that individual. What language someone uses when they approach the individual is critical too. You can say, well, well, maybe if you didn't go out at night, maybe this wouldn't have happened. That's concerning. The type of communication that one has causes the person to feel less of themselves and then that they're responsible for what happened. Instead of using validating language, supporting them, it's like, of course you're scared at night. Of course you didn't want to sleep alone. Of course you were worried about seeing what people may see and bad things that could happen. Just validate them in what they have been experiencing. And what can I do? And the next part is maybe seek counseling and seek a therapist. It's important, again, for the person to be able to make the decision to whether or not to go seek counseling, if they're ready or when they're ready. Maybe they'll never be ready. And sometimes they wish to focus on other things, the legal issues, the legal department, finding another place to live, but they'll put the therapeutic aspect aside, and that's okay. We recognize that some people may feel like they're being hyper vigilant of their surroundings. Maybe that experience has given them increased energy or frenetic energy. Maybe they break down. So we need to recognize and notice that the individual may not be able to sleep, or that they are in constant motion. And just acknowledge that, and to be aware of what people are going through when they experience either SA or sexual assault or domestic violence. And the first thing I think is to accept this happened to me and take that in and dispel the myths that I'm at fault for this and focus on this happened and where should I go for the support that I need. Do you want to report it to the authorities? Do you wish to escape? Are you wanting to leave, but you may not have the money to do so? You have to be ready to decide for yourself what you need. And if you decide, whatever it is you decide, to have an advocate with you to make that plan and to develop that plan together. And last, the thing that I want to say is about the healing process. And this is not a standard projection that will happen. Each individual may be healthy for a week, 2 weeks, a month, and then all of a sudden they find themselves in crisis again. And people are like, oh, you were doing good. What happened? The healing process is not on an even trajectory. It can go up and down. You may be stable for a while, and then you may experience other things. And my body, my mind, and to understand that you're safe, that the psychological damage that has occurred is immense. And you have to work to be able to get yourself back and your self-confidence restored. With self-validation and self-care, being able to be aware of yourself and receive respect from those around you, healing is then possible. So I'm open for questions and discussion as well. This is Karen. That was wonderful. That's really was helpful. It really was helpful information. I'm curious, suppose there was a famous person, or there's this famous person, that may have been again and again going back into the abusive situation. So how do you break that cycle? When a person decides to leave and then decides to go back, there can be many different reasons for that. Oh yeah, I agree, says Karen. It could be threats that they're experiencing, and the threats are still there. You may have an ally and a friend or a family member and know what they're doing to support you. And again, don't judge their decision. It's easy for an individual to become frustrated and say, hey, what the heck is going on? Why did you go back? It's easy to do that, but it only makes the person, the survivor, not feel good. You've got to remember not to judge where they are and what they're doing. If they go back, you say, okay, do you have a plan if something were to happen? And to be able to discuss their options and a strategy with them if something were to arise again. What would they do? Give them a phone number, a text number? Do you have money in a bag ready at any moment? What do you need from me to be able to best support you in this scenario? And keep that dialogue open and ongoing. Thank you. I saw on Facebook something that was difficult. A friend, says Karen, who didn't want to leave and said something like, I will I will do something to myself if you leave me. Okay? They put that out on Facebook. And I said, go ahead and call and get more support. Call 988 and get the support you need because that's really difficult, especially to see it out on Facebook. It's it's a challenge when the relationship, I call that passive aggressive behavior, if you will. You have to keep in mind that domestic violence doesn't always mean physical violence. It can be the threat that they put in fear in the other person. And then that is possible. For an example, if you say, I'm going to kill myself if you leave, they're not actually hurting the individual. But what you could say is like, oh, well, come on. I don't care about that. But some people don't handle that well. It's a form of persuasion, manipulation, and control. And it's called gaslighting to try to get them to do what it is you want. And does that mean that the person is really going to end their life? It's not our place to judge or decide. But if they say that, that means that they're not ready to accept the fact that the relationship has come to an end. And the individual that's on the receiving end of that has to figure out how to manage the other individual. Mental control, ooh, is really tough. You can see in lots of different situations. Maybe, for example, well, let me think here. I don't know if you know about the X cult, not Valium. It was a cult, and it happened a few years ago. And there's an interesting movie star that's involved in that. There was one man who was attracting women to follow him. There was no physical abuse, mind you, but there was a lot of talk, okay, that brought the women into his sphere. And they were afraid to leave the cult because they were afraid that what it would happen to, quote, the family and the home. Oh, yes, they were bonded there. Yes. So how do you work on the survivor in that situation? How do you find the person that may be weak and then you draw them into yourself and you use different techniques and strategies to keep them in your control. And they say, you need to stay with us. We need you. And that's part of what happens in that grooming process. So for a person to witness that, that's something that you have to definitely decide, like, how do you do that? Gaslighting me? How do I stop that? Therapeutic work is definitely involved in that case. I see Karen's got her hand raised, and it looks like we're going to take an interpreter switch.
Okay. So we're switching interpreters. All good. Okay. Okay, this is Karen. Well, you've already mentioned gaslighting, and gaslighting is part of the domestic violence. I do wonder if the community quite, they understand what gaslighting is like. That's one thing. The second thing is, a friend was trying to reach out to ADWAS on their hotline and reached out to us, yeah, nobody's answering. So I called them myself and I was asking because I thought ADWAS hotline was actually 24/7. Is that the case? Do you know? This is Irvine. They do have a hotline that's available 24/7. Yes. If if they also collaborate and work with other organizations as well. It's best to ask ADWAS directly. And this is Karen. I did. But I didn't get nobody responded yet. So I don't know. This is Irvine. Oh, that's so unfortunate. Karen saying yes, but in the future, you know, my friend eventually had got some help. But at that time, when they needed somebody, when they needed some assistance, it took a little while before somebody responded. So just want people to be aware. Are there other options? 988 with someone who can sign? I mean, yes, we strongly encourage if you cannot reach out to ADWAS for help, go to 988. That's another option. So more options, the better. This is Karen Feeling House here. Yes, I was trying to tell others about 988, but people still don't know about it. So I've been slowly getting the word out. 988. Yes. This is Irvine here. That is, wow. That's really heartening to hear that they weren't able to get help when they needed it the most. Well, I know sometimes things slip through the cracks. I feel it's important to have discussion with the administration lead over at ADWAS to have a conversation with them specifically about that situation when that happened and give some feedback to that situation. But again, I know things are confidential, that's tough, but if this individual is willing to share more detailed information, again, I know it's hard for them sometimes. It could be a challenge, but it would be good just to let them know and communicate, hey, we tried to reach out, but nobody was available. And maybe they could look into it and possibly give explanation of what might have happened at that time. So Karen, just letting you know, and Sarah actually had a comment too. So thank you so much. Appreciate it. Hey, Karen, what I'd like to add to Jim, go ahead and stay. Jim, stay. Karen, stay. Some people have some questions for Jim. Some people have questions for Irvine. So we'll see who's got some questions here. Okay, we all ready? This is Sandra. Are you ready? Yes. One moment. Get everything set up. Okay. Thank you so much, Sandra, for being patient. Everybody can see me okay? Yes, we can see you. Okay, I have two comments. One is for Jim. We were talking about the fires here. This happened a couple years ago. I was involved with attending meetings about how to prevent during the time of fires, and I want to let you know that nobody passed away, fortunately, but there was a family that had all 6 of their cats. All of them unfortunately passed away. One was my mom's favorite cat, but the son, who was hearing, was actually asleep when the fire happened. Did not hear anything. Parents were gone. It was a mobile home, and they were gone to like a doctor's appointment. When the fire got closer and closer to their home, the son woke up and was able to evacuate. It wasn't, but the messages during that time frame was focusing on, President Biden at that time ordered to set up the damage control center here. It was over in north part and middle of Middle Lake, and they were talking about needing assistance. The fire's coming closer. We're here to help. But they were saying, on the bottom says, you can go ahead and call. We'll provide interpreters. That was what the captions were on the bottom. So that community, did they have time to actually go to North to be able to access interpreters? Oh, we provide interpreter services right there. Okay, but on the bottom it says, yes, you do provide that. You provide accommodations. It says, no, we don't. And the client ended up calling me. And then I called and bawled him out. This is what it says right here. You said no. And then the gal says, oh, well, I don't handle that. I just, they handle that. So some other gal came to me and talked to me and said, well, because we had a deaf customer go again and fill out paperwork to be able to get some assistance. I'm like, oh, we're supposed to have things set up and provide accommodations for the deaf, but I just felt like that, that situation is, unfortunately nobody died. There were 6 cats that did pass away, and the insurance. Let's see, where is it? Oh, we're looking for individual. Irvine, where's Irvine? Can you come back on board, Irvine? Irvine, we need you on screen here. Perfect. Thank you so much. Hello. It's good to see you again. Irvine's like, yes, thank you so much. Good to see you. So he came to Spokane one time. It was like 3 years ago. WSD Senior Citizen Center came to Spokane. Do you remember that? Irvine's like, yes, I do recall that. Yes, that was nice. Good times. Yes. Sandra was saying, yes, we had that discussion, but I would like to say, a little bit about domestic violence. I agree about what you've been mentioning, and domestic, it does affect us mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually. But really, that's our president's doing to us now. I mean, look at it. I mean, it's all over the nation. Every house is becoming abused by him. And we're all concerned and worried about all the time what's happening. I'm constantly worried about what's happening with my family, what's happened next, what's going to happen out there. Who knows? Right now, right above the United States, we are victims of our own president of domestic violence. This is like, we need more counselors. We do. And it's like, oh, we got a good question, Irvine. How do we do some self-care in what's happening? That is a good question, Sandra. This is an everyday thing. I mean, we have constantly write down so many things he's doing every day, every single day with our president. I'm going crazy. I'm going crazy. It's like a war zone right now. This is Irvine. Yes, the situation is not easy to answer. As a licensed therapist, but just as therapist, I would let you know, avoid reading the news as much as possible. Take a break. Take a break. Be involved in things that you can do. I know, you can be involved in rallies. You could possibly have a friend that you could, support each other. We are seeing a lot of changes, and change is scary. Sandra's saying it is. I mean, we've already seen, ASL programs shutting down, and those things out there. I mean, it's normal to feel scared about what's happening, but I believe that you need to take care of yourself. Know when you have your limitations. Know what they are. Maintain positivity during the dark moments. Be optimistic. Find good people to interact with. Do things that are good for your body. Sandra's like, yeah, keep drinking, right? Well, Sandra's like, no, I was just kidding. Just kidding. This is Irvine. I think a lot of that's has to be with fear, not knowing what's happening of the unknown, can't foresee what's to bring for the future. I mean, this is all, this is a systematic issue. It's not a one person, it's a system. And that's our job, is to try to figure out what to do. We have to be able to trust our government. Sandra's saying, fingers crossed, trying to, as we navigate and move along. And I know it's scary. Unfortunately, I don't have an answer for you for that. Sandra's saying, I understand. I had breakfast this morning over in Spokane. And Liz today, who used to be
Liz Cheney.
Liz Cheney, thank you, used to be the congresswoman out there, one of the who did one of the investigations against Jehovah's Witness, I think it was.
January 6th. She was on the January 6th committee, and my new sign for Trump.
Trump, thank you.
Yeah, on the nose.
And had experiences growing up with the father who was in politics, who was involved heavily in politics. But good presenter, good information. I mean, it was packed. There was like 400 or 500 people that showed up, for this breakfast, to be able to hear him, pay for breakfast and hear him talk. And wow. And also, that they saw President Trump sit there and just watch TV and just go ahead and move things along. And saw that other people were trying to get the president's attention. It's like, hey, you need to stop what's going on. You need to stop this. He just sat there and ignored people. Let them figure it out themselves, what he was doing. And we were like, oh my gosh, you finally admitted it. You admitted seeing that. So it's like, you knew. Oh my gosh. You give us hope. And, the government, we still see the damages. Hopefully, somebody's going to intervene and somebody's going to stop this. Hopefully this will happen. I'm very hopeful, but I have feelings stirring up inside of me, but I'm hopeful that we'll get to a resolution here. But you're right. We got to do the self-care, be positive, and be hopeful that things will work out in the future. Thank you for coming. It's good to see you again. Everyone says, yes, positivity is key. Positivity is key. And also self-validation. Fear is a thing. I understand. Take care of your feelings. Okay, Karen's wanting to say something. Oh. Okay, we are switching interpreters here. One moment.
Okay, this is Karen. Karen Atwood. Karen Philo is turning it over to Karen Atwood. Do you have any questions for Jim or Sue? Does anyone out there have questions for Jim or Sue? Jim, do you want to come down? Sue, Karen is saying Sue. Okay, Jim. Sandra just relayed something political and that happened that she was involved with this morning. And we know that with all the federal cuts, how is that going to affect the state with the state cuts that are also happening? And what happens if there's an emergency, something catastrophic like an earthquake or a huge flood or a massive wildfire? What do you suggest we do? This is Jim. I think first of all, get to know your neighbors. Whoever lives next to you, on the left, the right, somebody above you if you're in an apartment, someone below you, and network with the people around you. So if something were to happen in your home or in your immediate neighborhood, let's say if there was a fire in the house, then the fire department will come in just a few moments, right? 3 minutes, 4 minutes, something like that. But if the whole street were on fire, then it's going to take more time and there'd be more damage that will happen. In a situation where an earthquake or something else were to occur, the fire department and the emergency management has to go through a priority system and will get to one place, then the next, and then the next. And that can take an extended period of time. It could take a week or two before someone actually gets there. Like in North Carolina this past fall with the hurricane Helene, and it impacted Western North Carolina with the rushing waters and the floods. The phone lines, everything was completely down. And deaf people that were there, they had friends. They lived right nearby, but they didn't know anything what was going on until the following day. They had no clue. They had to connect and ask people because all the phones and the internet was wiped out. And it was as if we had gone back to the 18th century overnight. Everything had been disconnected, and it took a long time to navigate and make all of the connections come back again and to be connected to 2025. It's possible that fires can occur. Earthquake, I think, is the dangerous thing. If we have a 9.0 earthquake, and some of you are familiar with experiencing some lighter earthquakes. But as that number goes up, it exponentially gets worse. And it will turn the whole world upside down. Interpreters can be really difficult to access because they're in the same situation. How do they get to some place to be broadcast out to the world? So you have to keep these things in mind. So build good relationships with your neighbors and the people that are around you. Also, like contact ADWAS and other different agencies to know what it is that you can do. Listen to things that can help you prepare. You need to be prepared with some food stock, things that you don't need to cook to prepare, things that you can eat that don't require electricity. And it's mostly going to be canned goods, and have that can opener available, because how are you going to get into a canned good without having access to it? So take some time to think about these things and develop your game plan. Maybe you think about camping. You know, when you go camping, you prepare for certain things. It's the same kind of idea. I think Sue has her hand up, so let's get Sue down here. Sue has her hand up. Okay, and Lori is okay. Sue, go ahead.
Oh, sorry, my screen actually froze for a couple of minutes there. But I wanted to back up what Jim has to say, that all those things are really a good plan. And no matter what happens in the future, and things are really kind of uncertain now, we don't know exactly what it's going to look like. But even if we did, if something big happens where you live, that big thing is going to affect everything around you. And they may not be able to come and help. No one may be able to come and help you. It may be you and your neighbors who help each other for a couple of days until someone can get to where you are. If bridges are out, if roads are taken out, there's just so many different things that can happen. And so no matter the best plans in your county or your town or whatever FEMA can do, and FEMA really doesn't come in right when something happens. FEMA comes later. Disasters always happen local, and they start local, and they wind up in the end coming back to local. But so you need to be prepared to be able to take care of yourself and your family and your friends and neighbors until help can come. And that's why I try to promote this a lot. People sometimes think if they sign up for warnings, that means they'll know where they are and they will come and rescue you. That probably won't happen because they won't be able to. If it's a big disaster, there will be so many people who need help that everyone who helps will come and help, but it takes time. And it may take a while for people to even be able to get to your area, depending upon what's going on. They can't come, if there's a flood, the only way they could come and get you is if somebody has a boat that they can float you out. Now, they may have that, but they might not have 100 of them. So that's why I try to encourage people to think about what do you need so that you can be okay. How can you take care of you and your family? And do you have anyone, like, do you have someone out of the area who can be your contact person? So that if people can't get to your area or they can't reach you, can they maybe reach your contact person? If you wind up being in a shelter on the east side of town and someone's in a shelter maybe 2 towns over, maybe you both reach back to the person who's out of the area where things are stable. This way you build up your whole network, you build up your network of the people that you know, both close by and far away, that you can have contact with, where you can get information, where they may be able to assist you, or maybe you can assist each other. Like maybe you have cereal and your neighbor has milk. Then you can both have breakfast, right? That sort of thing can really help people get by together. So I did include a link to the Emergency Management Division website, and Jim added in some of those really cool comic books that talk about tsunamis and earthquakes. So educate yourself and think really hard about what are the things that you need. If you're going to have to stay in your house for a week till someone can come and help you, what do you need to have? And then build it up little by little. That was another very good point that Jim gave is you don't have to go out and buy everything all at once. You don't have to spend a lot of money. You can do it slowly over time. I think we even have, there's even some information on, I think it's getting ready in a year of how to build up your um, supplies and your Go Kit over a year. So you don't have to do it all at once. And you don't have to scare yourself. You just want to have a good plan. You'll be less scared if you have a plan. And I also want to say thank you so much for having me come. I really appreciate it.
And this is Jim. Thank you. We really appreciate your time, Sue, and Wish we had opportunities to talk more, but we will certainly partner together. And also, some of you may be interested in being a participant and participate and be more involved. Like you want to know who is around me? What is the state doing? What can I see happen? And everybody is in the same position, and it's important that you're all involved. To be able to know that you can go to CERT, the Community Emergency Response Team, and those folks maybe be able to maybe involved already. You might want to join in and learn more about how you can be able to learn something about fire prevention or basic first aid and how to call in assistance. Maybe you're looking for a place to shelter. Maybe a tree comes down. How do you prop it up in order to be able to crawl out from under or something? Whatever the various skills are that are needed to be able to utilize in such an emergency position, feel free to join in on that type of training. And they have interpreters, and sometimes deaf people are included in the program so that the CERT folks have deaf people to practice on how to communicate. And maybe there's a roundtable discussion with different ideas and how deaf accessibility can be improved. I know that I'm involved in, for example, let's see, what's it called? Oh, yes. For a tsunami, let's say, Washington State has 120 poles with emergency warning notifications that a tsunami is coming, and it's a loud siren, but there's no light attached to it. It's an auditory signal only. There's no light to indicate, have a visual warning. It's only auditorily warning. So sometimes we have a simulated model about how to adjust these types of things in order to make it more inclusive. Maybe the volume needs to be louder. So we have different testing systems. And if the system was even louder, then it might include more hard of hearing people to be able to respond to that type of thing. So we're looking at how to best utilize our environment to be able to include everyone, because it's not everybody knows what the individual needs are. We have to share that information on the state and local areas. People need to know one another and also be able to utilize the resources that others have developed. Next month, I think we're going to have a meeting to talk more about this, about language accessibility and interpreters. And you can reach out to us. I'll put my email in the chat and feel free to reach out to me at any time. Jim and Sue, this is Karen. Thank you so much. And I see Irvine has his hand raised. We've got to wrap up here, but I just wanted to add one thing. Hold on, we're going to spotlight you. There you go. Okay, go ahead. All right, you're able to see me okay? All right. Before we wrap up, I really would like to back up a little bit and say that there is a deaf hotline at ADWAS. There is that there. And I want to give you the right number to make sure that you post it on YouTube. We've got that posted on YouTube as well. Also, the 988 number to be able to review the website that focuses on suicide prevention as well as mental health. And the deaf hotline is for survivors of trauma like SA and DV. And we want you to know that there's a place to go. And again, in the system, we hope that we all work in partnership with one another to see our survivors be able to recover quickly and that we're working in partnership with one another. This is Karen. I want to post that on Facebook too. Yes, it's so important. And same with Jim, to be able to post the emergency information of what to do, because we're never done with this topic, these topics, never. Okay, so hopefully soon we'll have you all back, including Sue. And I want to thank everyone and have a pleasant evening. And bye for now. Bye-bye, everyone.